It's 3 p.m. Eastern time, and so we will get started. So welcome to those of you who are new to my program, and welcome back to those of you who are joining again. My name is Allie. I'm a doctor of physical therapy as well as a nationally certified Pilates instructor. I've been practicing here in the Boston area for the last 5 years. I own my own practice here, and I have been practicing with the Community Online Academy since it started back in March. So I'm excited to have you guys here today. This is our traditional back pain class, so no props, we're just working with our body weight. It's a 30-minute program. We're gonna do almost entirely movement-based, some stretching, some strengthening, and we'll talk very briefly at the end about ergonomics. So any other questions you have, we'll go over all of that at the end. As always, I encourage you to listen to your body. So everyone's backs are dealing with different things. Some of the stuff we do will be challenging, some of it will be easy for your body and different for others. Please take a modification if you feel like you need it, and that way you'll get the most out of this workout for your body. So we're gonna start lying down on our backs with our knees bent, feet flat, and start with a little breathing. Let me just tip this down just a hair more so you guys have a good view. Okay. So find your comfortable resting position down onto your back. You can take your hands, resting them right on top of your abdomen, and feel your tailbone resting down onto the mat. We're going to start here getting connected to how your body feels in this moment in time. And just know that there's really no right or wrong way for your body to feel in this moment. We're just starting to notice any differences from side to side, any spots of tension. And as you get connected to how your body is feeling in this moment, tune your attention into your breath, and especially sending your breath down low into your belly. So we have a muscle called our diaphragm that's down low in our belly, and it should be active with our breathing. And it's actually helpful to engage some of the deeper core muscles that support our spine. So I want you to take a big breath in and feel movement underneath your hands with your inhale. And with your exhale breath, feel that air letting go. Taking another big inhale breath in through your nose. And this time, trying to exhale out through your mouth, blowing out that air. Inhale breath in through the nose, expanding. And an exhale breath out to let it go. One more time here, big inhale breath in, open. And an exhale breath to release. We're gonna start very gently here with some pelvic tilts. So if you think about the space under your low back, you're gonna close that space and then open. Close that space and open. This should be comfortable range of motion for your spine. And if you've been taking my class before, you've done this movement, I want you to pair this with your breathing. So exhale when you close the space behind your low back, inhale when you open. Exhale to close that space, inhale to open. See if you can continue that same pattern without pushing into your feet and squeezing your glutes. And that might make your movement a little bit smaller, which is fine. We're just very gently trying to warm up our low back, bringing a little bit of gentle heat to the area, as well as some gentle mobility to the very low part of our lumbar spine. We'll try 4 more times like that. Nice, guys. Last 3. Good. 2 more. And the last time here. Good. Now walk your feet together, knees together, and allow your ends to rest down by your side. We're going to very gently start to rotate the legs side to side. Keep your knees together, feet together, and this will, your hips will lift, but I want you to keep your shoulders down. And what we're doing by setting up that way is bringing the rotation into our lower back. Okay, it should be comfortable and gentle. Only bring your legs as far as you can comfortably go from side to side. And I hope as you move a little bit here that this will get a little easier and a little bit more free, but just notice it for now. We're also going to do rotation in our upper back as well as down in our hips in a few moments. Good. We'll try just about 3 more times here. Good. And 2, gentle rock side to side. Excellent. Once more here. And then settle somewhere right back into the middle. From here, separate your feet a little bit, walking your heels in close enough towards your bottom to be able to tuck them. Open up your collarbones, press your palms down into the mat and glue the feet down into the floor. Imagine that there's like a little pillow right between your knees that's keeping your knees together. From this position, we're going to take that pelvic tilting motion and make it just a little bit bigger to curl the hips on up and then soften and melt the spine back down. Start with that pelvic tilt once again to curl the spine up and soften and melt the spine back down. So we're doing a bridge here. You should feel most of the work in your glutes, your butt muscles. Double check and make sure that you're not feeling it in your low back. If you are, that may be because your ribs are lifted a little bit too high. So soften and melt your ribs down. Again, if you've practiced this before, we're gonna focus in a little bit on the breath. So exhale to create that pelvic tilt starting to lift up. Hold at the top for an inhale breath. With your exhale, soften and melt the ribs all the way down onto the mat, unraveling the tailbone. Again, we curl the tailbone back, lifting the spine up, and soften and melt the spine down, coming back to that neutral position. Exhale to curl the hips up, hold at the top. Inhale breath. Exhale, soften and melt the spine back down. We'll try twice more like this, curling the hips up, lift, inhale, and exhale, melt it back down. One more time here. We curl up, inhale, and exhale, soften all the way back down. Good. So that was a little bit of work for our glutes. We're going to balance that out with our core. And the function of our core in this next exercise is to really keep our spine still. So we're going to rest our hands down onto our trunk, really focusing on keeping stillness underneath our hands. So what you'll do is start to very gently just march one leg at a time off the floor. And as you march here, I want you to notice that not only is it stillness from front to back, but it's also stillness from side to side. So as we create this alternating leg movement here, this is just like walking or maybe even running or going up and down stairs, our ability for our core to keep our spine still. If you're having trouble, slow it down a little bit and use that exhale breath to lift your leg up off the floor. Exhale, inhale, place it back down. Exhale, lift, inhale, place it back down. Now, if this is feeling easy and you'd like to progress, you can bring both legs to tabletop. Check in again that your spine stayed nice and still, so your rib cage is down on the mat, and then you reverse to lower in the opposite direction here. So you're dropping the heel down and lifting, lowering down and lifting, lower down and lift. And you don't have to go all the way to the floor. You're reaching down just as far as you can go before you sense movement underneath your spine. 4 more. That's it here, guys. Last 3. Good. 2. And last time, hug both knees in towards your chest and give yourself a gentle stretch with a rock from side to side. We're going to take that rock right on up to a seated position, letting your feet rest down on the floor. And we'll prepare for a hamstring stretch. Now, a lot of times with our hamstrings, we may have tight hamstrings, but we may also have some nerve irritation or tightness in the back of our legs. So for that purpose, we're going to keep a soft bend in our knees because I want you to be able to sit up really tall. So bend your knees as much as you need to be able to sit with your hips and shoulders stacked on top of one another. Once you have found that position, keep the spine tall. Instead of rounding forward to stretch, we're going to just tip the spine forward in a flat back. So it's hinging from the hips. And you should feel that stretch in the back of your legs. You can let your fingertips rest down on the floor. Think of lifting your rib cage up away from your thighs. And this stretch may feel different than what you're used to feeling for your hamstrings. What this does is it positions you in a way that takes the pressure off of the nerves and gives you a stretch just in the muscle in the back of your hamstring. We'll hold and breathe here for a little bit longer. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears, maybe tip forward just a touch more if you can. Good. And then we're gonna go ahead and let that go, coming on over into an all fours position. So here, if you have knee sensitivity, you can roll up your mat a couple of times. You can rest your hands down flat underneath your shoulders, maybe dropping your shoulders down away from your ears. In this setup, if you have wrist sensitivity, you may also want to drop your, rather shift your hips backwards so your shoulder is slightly behind your wrist. What we're gonna work on is finding some balance with our arm out to the side. So take your shoulders away from your ears. Notice if your ribs are dropping to the floor, try and lift them up away from the floor. So your upper back is relatively flat. Your low back may have a small curve. Maintaining that position, reach your right arm straight out to the side with your palm facing down. Now, chances are when you lifted that right hand, your body weight shifted to the left. Can you reach a little bit farther to the right to center yourself in the middle of your mat and just hold this here? You should feel your core working just to hold this setup. And this is our spine's ability to stay supported when we're bent over, and certainly when we're lifting something when bent over. Hold this here for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gently place that hand back down, and then we're set up well to go into a rotation stretch for our upper back. So now take that right arm up towards the ceiling. You're gonna thread that right hand underneath your left arm, letting your head, neck, and shoulders rest down, and then rotate to reach the right arm up towards the ceiling again. Right arm threads underneath your left, let your shoulder and neck rest down, and then rotate to reach up towards the ceiling, finding that stretch. So I mentioned earlier, we did rotation for our low back. This is now rotation for our upper back, which helps with our twisting mobility and twisting range of motion. Good. 2 more times on this side. And gently lower, melting it down. That's it. Once more here, take that big stretch up. We'll lower it all the way down. We're gonna hold for a breath here, taking an inhale, expanding wide out to the side with our ribs, and then coming right back into the center. Now we'll set up for the left side. I'm gonna turn to just show you guys from the front, and then we'll get into that same setup. So we're in our all fours position, shoulders down away from the ears. This time I'm reaching my left arm out to the side with my palm facing down. And I'm gonna shift my body weight to the left to keep myself centered. So once I'm in that setup, I'm just holding it here. You can almost imagine resting your left hand on a coffee table next to you. And you're just kind of hovering it right over that table. Dropping the shoulder down away from the ear, get tall through the top of your head. Hold a little bit longer. We go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come all the way down. And then we'll take that right into that left side rotation stretch. So reach your top arm up to the ceiling. You're gonna rotate, thread the left arm underneath your right, let your head, neck, and shoulders come down, and then turn to rotate and twist, reaching the left arm up to the ceiling. Turn that left hand underneath your right arm again, let your head, neck, and shoulders drop, and turn to rotate back up. Now this stretch might feel quite different from side to side, and that's actually normal. Our upper body, since we have a dominant arm, tends to be more flexible on that side. 2 more times here, just like this, and lower back down. Good. Once more here, rotate up, big twist, lower it all the way down, drop the shoulder and ear down towards the mat, and then we'll come right back to center. From this position, we're gonna walk forward to lie down onto our stomachs. Now, if you lie on your stomach and you feel sensitivity in the hips or low back, you can always place a pillow underneath your hips here. Otherwise, we're gonna try to start to press and lift our spine up. So maybe lifting just your upper back. If you're comfortable, you can press up to lift into your low back. So work within the range of motion that's comfortable for your body. If you've been doing my class before, you have done this exercise because I put this in all of my low back classes. And part of the reason is that this is the complete opposite posture of what we do in sitting, which is being bent forward. So in this setup, if you've practiced it before, I want you to practice lifting your ribs up away from the floor. So not letting them sag down, but actually keeping your core active by peeling your rib cage up at the same pace as you lift your spine. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears, and you can feel how that starts to become a little bit of work for the abdominals. And it's a very challenging way for the abdominals to work because they are in such a stretched position, but it can be helpful to deepen the stretch. Good. We'll try 2 more times just like this. That's it here, guys. And 1 more time. And then gently lower all the way back down. Good. Now we're gonna try a little quad stretch here. Quad is the muscle on the front of our thigh. And this is a stretch that I see done in standing a lot. I actually like it done down on the floor because it prevents you from compensating in other parts of your body. So what we're gonna do is lay your left hand flat across the top of your mat, and you can rest your forehead down on your left forearm. And then you're gonna bend your right knee and reach for your toes with your right hand. If you can't reach them, you can always take a towel or a sheet and sort of wrap around. Now, connect your forehead back down. And right away, you want to notice if you feel pain in your low back. And if you do, think of pushing your pubic bone into the mat and lifting your rib cage up away from the mat. At the same time, notice if your knee has drifted out to the side. Try and draw it in towards the center. And if you're very flexible here, you can walk down a little bit lower onto your ankle instead of your toes. And just try and breathe in this position. Notice how if you really crank on your foot here and pull it in, you'll start to arch your back. So you can see how those things are connected. Now, some people will feel this stretch down low in their, closer to their knee and the quad itself. Some people might feel this in the hip flexor. We're gonna do a stretch specific to the hip flexor in a little bit. So we'll try 1 more big breath here. And then carefully let that leg go and switch to the other side. So I'm gonna lie my right forearm across the mat, let my forehead rest down, reach back for my left toes back behind me. And again, you can always use like a rope or a towel sheet if you cannot reach that foot to wrap it around your foot. And then very carefully pull it in towards your bottom. It shouldn't be stressful or straining. It should just feel like a gentle stretch. Now, again, if you feel it in your low back, push your pubic bone into the mat and try drawing your rib cage up away from the mat. Bring your left knee closer to the midline of your body, even if that means you can't stretch your heel in as close towards your bottom. That's totally fine here. And just breathe. Maybe notice any differences from side to side. Make sure that your right foot is down on the floor at the same time. Good. We'll try 1 more big deep breath in here. And then very gently release that leg. Now we're gonna stack both of our forearms and stay down on the mat for 1 more stretch. So we've done upper back rotation, lower back rotation. We're gonna do rotation for the hips now. So bend both of your knees to about a 90-degree angle and keeping your low back on the floor as best you can. Start to windshield wiper your hips side to side. So because our low back is down on the floor, we are guaranteeing that most of that rotation goes into your hips. And this is internal and external rotation at the hip joint. So be gentle here. Sometimes you can get little clicks and pops in your hips, and that's okay as long as that's pain-free. We're just creating mobility in the joint. Good. Try 3 more. And 2. And 1 more time here. Good. Now straighten out the legs carefully, press yourself on up, and we're gonna press back into a shell stretch. So you can round your hips letting your belly rest down on your thighs and walking forward. If you cannot bend your knees in that way, you can keep your hips pointing up to the ceiling and let your chest drop down more like a puppy dog stretch, the way a dog might stretch their paws in the morning. And so in this position, we'll also walk both hands to the right side of the mat. And that should help you feel a stretch through the left side body. And that's our left lat muscle. The lat is a shoulder muscle, but it connects all the way down towards the low back, so it can influence our back mobility as well. We'll try the same thing, walking both hands over to the left side of the mat so that you feel that right side body lat stretch. And just notice that stretch. Drop your shoulder down away from your ear. Take a deep breath in, trying to breathe into the sides of your rib cage. And then you can carefully come on up to a seat. So we're going to find a seated position now with the left hip down and the legs splayed to the right. And see how that feels. If that is an uncomfortable seated position for you, find any comfortable seat. But if you can sit this way, stack the spine tall, open up your arms, and we're going to move our spine sideways. So this is the last of our spinal movements. We're going to very gently just tip the arms up and over. One of the nice things about this seated position as we do our side bending in our spine is that we also get internal and external rotation at the hip. And so if you're feeling like, wow, this is a really hard position for me to sit in with my hip, it may be hip mobility in the rotation direction that is limiting you. Good. 3 more on this side. And 2. And 1 more time here. Good. Okay, we're gonna now swing the legs over so that we're sitting down on the right hip with the legs splayed off to the left. Keeping your hip down, stack your spine up tall, open up your arms to take up space, and then we'll dive up and over. So we change our leg direction because we will get the opposite rotation in our hips this time, and we still get a nice side bending movement through our spine. And side bending is not a movement that we do sort of in our regular day-to-day that often, but it has components of a lot of different movements we do, especially unilateral things where we're using one side of our body differently than the other. Good. 2 more times. And the last one here. Good. Okay, so we're going to take this into a hip flexor stretch now. The hip flexor stretch is done in kneeling. So you have a couple options if you're uncomfortable kneeling. One is that you can place pillows underneath your knees, but 2, you can actually do the same stretch in standing, and you're going to mirror all our movements but in standing. My only recommendation is that you have something to hold on to so that you do not feel off balance. So I will set you guys up in kneeling first. We're going to come to a tall kneel, walking our right foot in front of our left. So we have a 90-degree angle at the front leg and at the back leg. Now, if you're standing, you're just going to lift the back knee, okay? So either option is fine. From here, with our right foot forward, you're going to rotate your left hip forward, right hip back to square the hips. Pick your chest up tall. You want your shoulders stacked over your back left hip. Core is active. You're going to engage your left glute and then gently lunge forward until you feel a stretch in the front of your left thigh. Now, if your back is really arched here, you're not going to feel a very good stretch. It's actually going to take away from that hip flexor. So try and draw your core in. Your rib cage is giving your stomach a gentle hug. Think of lifting and lengthening up through the top of your head. Now, we can deepen the stretch a little if you would like by reaching the left arm up towards the ceiling and side bending towards the right. So dropping your right hand down towards the floor. And this is subtle, it's gentle, but that's to deepen the stretch you feel through the front of that left side. So we'll just hold this for another breath here. And then gently let it go. And we'll come out of that and set up for the second side. So you can swing that right leg back. We're going to step the left foot forward. Square your hips by rotating left hip forward, right hip back. Pick your chest up nice and tall. Engage your right glute this time and gently lunge forward until you feel the stretch in the front of your right hip. And again, if you don't feel that stretch, either your right hip is rotated back too far or you're leaning back. So try and stack that spine really tall and gently lean forward. Now to deepen that stretch, reach the right arm up to the ceiling, left hand down towards the floor. You're gonna gently side bend to the left. So you're just reaching those fingertips up and over to the left. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears and gently breathe. Good. Try one more big breath in and gently let it go. And then we'll come out of that stretch. Awesome, nice work, guys. So that concludes the movement-based part of our class. I want to go over a couple quick tips to look for about what you should be thinking about in your work from home setup when it comes to your lower back and the lower half of your body. So excuse me for a second, I'm going to bring my chair over. And really, I don't have a chair. I'm going to just demo with you guys with the poop so you can see a little bit better. So with my little poof here, what we're looking for very quickly when it comes to the low back is a 90-degree angle at the ankle, at the knees, and about the hips as well. So you can see this chair is a little bit too low for me because I have too much of a bend at my knees. So I would want to prop myself up here. Now, when it comes to the low back itself, the most important thing that you can look for is to find your neutral spine in sitting. And your neutral spine is the natural curve of your low back. So if I sit here, I want to tip my pelvis forward to maintain that natural curve of my low back. Everyone's backs are different. Some people have a very flat low back. Some people have a big curve in their low back. You want to get as close to your natural curve as possible. Now, once you are in that natural curve, it's actually okay to be tipped backwards just slightly. The sort of peak is about 15 degrees. You can be leaning back, but you don't want to be slumped leaning back. You want to be in that neutral position, hinging back. So for some people, that means you need some kind of low back support. And if you are using some sort of lumbar support or even just a small towel roll, you want it to be really low on your pelvis so that it presses your pelvis forward, not up high to press your rib cage forward. Okay, so finding the neutral pelvic position and holding that, and that's sort of your basics 101 of what to look for the low back. We go over in a lot more detail what to look at for screen height and all of that in my next class, but I wanted to give you guys a couple things to think about when it comes to the low back and your desk chair. So with that being said, we'll have just another minute or two left here in class. I'd love to answer any additional questions you guys have from today's program. And since we are our nice small 5-star group, you guys are welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask any questions. You can also send them to me in the chat. So that's totally up to you. What I also hope you take from today's program is that you don't have to do all of these stretches and exercises all at once. You can take some of the ones that you liked or that felt especially good for your body, integrate them in throughout the day. So those little bits and pieces to break up your day, prevent your spine from getting stiff, and it keeps you flexible, keeps you warm, keeps you strong over the course of the day.